There are three key aspects of a commander deck: the commander, a single copy of each non-basic land, and it has to be 100 cards. Over the years, some of these rules have been bent. Cards like Persistent Petitioners or Relentless Rats let you play any number of them in a deck. Partner and background commanders give you access to basically 2 commanders. And then you can also build a companion deck, giving your deck potentially a 3rd commander. Now the only thing we haven't been able to do is build a deck with more than 100 cards. But what if we could bend the rule and still have a commander legal deck, but technically it's more than 100 cards? And I'm not talking about making a new format or a Rule Zero conversation. So let's dive in and see how we can build a 100 plus card deck. Now, how do we build a 100 plus card deck? Well, simply put, we're going to use the pile method. Now, what is the pile method, you might ask? The idea is simple. Let's say you're building a commander like Atla Palani Nest Tender, and you need to decide what, 30-35 creatures to add to the deck. There are a lot of considerations to be made. Do you want incredibly powerful haymakers like a Tali Primal Conqueror, Avacyn Angel of Hope, and Galta Stampede Tyrant? Maybe you want to play some budget creatures like Thragtusk, Kona Rescue Bestie, and Kogla and Udara. So instead of limiting yourself to 35 creatures, what if you shuffled 35 random creatures each game into your deck, or maybe once a night, from a pile of creatures? Well, that's exactly what my friend did. Instead of limiting yourself to a certain set, play all the creatures you want. Have a random foil rare? Well, you can shuffle it up. Want to play Kiki Jiki Mirror Breaker and Zealous Conscripts, but not have to see them every single game? Well, you can put them in your pile. And what's great is you can tune piles based on power level. Maybe you can have a bulk pile, which is just creatures you had laying around for whenever you want a lower powered game, or a higher power pile that is filled with 2-card combos and big haymakers. Maybe you'll always want to keep 10 egg creatures in the deck and shuffle in just 25 creatures instead. Yes, obviously this will add variance to a game of Commander, but that's one of the best parts of a casual format. Now, how does one pick a pile commander? There are a few key things you should be on the lookout for. I'll use Atla Palani Nest Tender as an example here. Does the commander care about a certain card type? How restrictive is their ability? And can they actually win using a random pile of cards? Well, yes, she cares about creatures and eggs. She generates egg tokens by herself, so you really don't need any specific egg support, although it could help. And yeah, you can win with creature beatdown. It's still absolutely a viable strategy. And don't worry, there's more than just Atla Palani. Dahada Binder of Wills actually is a great pile commander because she just cares about legendary creatures. So you really don't need to be too specific there. A lot of them are just really powerful. A deck I'm working on is Mikaeus the Unhallowed Mono Black Pile. Because Mikaeus only cares about non-humans, I can just shuffle in a bunch of black creatures that I like, as long as they're not human, and probably still do really well. Some other options you could mess around with are Balin the Haymaker Token Pile, Commodore Guff Planeswalker Pile, and Zoldak Voidgorger 7-mana Pile. I don't know how optimal all these could be, but definitely let me know your thoughts in the comment and what pile commander you think you'd want to build. Once you've chosen your pile commander, you need to decide how many cards you want to shuffle in each game. I found somewhere between 25 and 35 to be the sweet spot. That generally provides enough core cards to have the deck function, while adding a solid amount of variance. For example, my friend shuffles 30 creatures into their egg deck. It's an easy number to remember, and you probably want roughly 30 creatures in a creature-based deck. You can also shuffle in a smaller number of spells. Let's say you just built a new Storm Force of Nature, and you want to play some storm spells, like Grape Shot, so you can give them multiple instances of storm. What if instead, you shuffle in, we'll say 5 random storm spells each game? Changing 5 cards won't dramatically lower or increase the power level of the deck, and it will still add some pretty fun variants depending on which you end up adding. Maybe you'll end up making a bunch of beasts with Hunting Pack, or burning out the table with Ignite Memories. I've even toyed with the idea of making a Storm Pile deck, where you shuffle in 25 random instant and sorcery spells. I don't think this would work, it might be a little too hard, but it's definitely something I've thought about. And then finally, we have to build the core of the deck. These would be the 65 to 75 cards that won't change between games. Now, I try not to add cards of the same type that I'm making the piles for. For example, in Atla, the core doesn't have any creatures. This makes it easier to find the cards you're swapping out each game. And just like any commander deck, you will need to make sure you have lands, ramp, removal, and card draw. Generally speaking, I suggest adding a bit more of each than you might otherwise, since the mana curve of your deck will change between games, and then you just need to add whatever other support pieces you need for your strategy. If you can fit it in, I like adding some backup win conditions in case the pile I get is absolutely horrendous. That doesn't usually happen, but sometimes an Exsanguinate or Chandra's Ignition is just what you need to close out the game. I would love to hear your thoughts on pile decks in the comment section down below. Have you tried this before? Do you want to try it with a commander? Do you think it's too much work? Just let me know. And if you want more videos like this, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell to get notifications when all my videos go live. Alrighty nerds, I'll see you in the next one.